So the next video I was going to do on Voidbreaker was me talking about some of my favorite modules, some of my favorite weapons, and some of my favorite builds I've been doing. But in the footage I was gathering for this video, the run started cooking a lot. And I was like, oh man, I got to talk about this run because this is by far my best run to date, or at the time of this video, my best run yet. Hopefully by the time this video goes out, I have done a better run, but so far this is my favorite run. So that's run 35. I want to talk a little bit more in depth about it while kind of explaining some of the systems and how I'm feeling about the game so far, because I'm having a blast with it. If you don't know from my previous video, I am playing Voidbreaker for the entire month of January. It's one roguelike I'm focusing on for the entire month, and Voidbreaker is it. So I'm going to talk about this run, kind of splice in some gameplay segments here and there, but let's talk about the entire run in and of itself. But first, a little bit of background as to where I was at in the game before I started the run. So I already had made it to the second zone. I already beat the first boss, so I made it past the first boss so far. And what happens when you beat a boss, you unlock another access point, which then gives you the ability to access another weapon. So I did get the shotgun. So now I have the pistol and the shotgun. I did just unlock those. What's also interesting as well is that you'll get the ability to go to something called an encrypted shortcut, which allows you to bypass essentially half of the next zone. So I was able to go to the next zone. Also had a permanent upgrade to allow some module chests to appear right before the run started. So between that and the encrypted shortcut, I was kind of already stacked as to what I was going to do for my current build, what was available to me at the time. And it was already looking pretty good because I got the plasma projectile, which increases the size and the damage of my projectiles in each bullet, a few body mods for some extra boost in damage, and so I was moving right along there. I've been playing this game almost every day for a month, and I gotta tell you, it's a really interesting feeling because I'm starting to get into that flow state, kind of how I feel whenever I get really into a roguelike and I'm starting to feel the systems and feel the mechanics. I'm not fully on autopilot yet, but it's also making for some fun and interesting moments because this game requires a lot out of you. There's a lot of movement involved, and you have to be aware of where the enemies are, and I'm starting to really understand and starting to really feel that stuff. So in the initial phases of this run, there weren't that many enemies to contend with, not many sub bosses, so starting to feel it, just trying to get warmed up and everything. And the RNG in the loot was pretty kind to me, as I was getting some mods for freezing damage and also some extra weapon damage, so I was really kind of cooking, able to use my grenade to destroy some of the buildings around me that would drop freezing bombs, have chances to freeze, also some extra body mods for more damage. So, and I pretty much no diffed the first boss because of my particular build, but also because I fought this boss a lot, so I kind of already know his patterns in all three phases of what's to be involved in there. So yeah, but it was really fun to get in with this first boss and kind of see his health kind of melt away as I was shooting at him. So moving on to zone 2, which is more of a jungle area, I did notice that I was running a little bit low on mod space. So hopefully I can find some invokers to help me expand all the slots, or I needed to take out some stuff for the mods to come. And invokers did save the day. So shout out to the corner resonator. So the corner resonator essentially enables all the corner slots in your weapon module slots, and also adds some repeater effects, which allows for double damage, and also extra triggers on things like elemental damage. So I still had the freezing mods also help with extra damage and extra elemental effects as well. So yeah, I'm going full force there. By the way, you'll notice something that you didn't see in the first video of this, and that is the grapple hook. That can only be unlocked when you reach zone 2, but when you go back, when you die, you go back to zone 1, there will be grapple points available so you can grapple around. It's actually a really great boost to movement. It helps me get around really great, so you have that. It's a great help to all the mobility that you already had, but this just enhances it to a great degree. degree. And the enemies were getting a little bit harder thanks to something called the Vitalis enemy, which essentially is like an orb that kind of heals all the enemies. You got to be able to take them out quick, because if you don't, the enemies will overwhelm you. There was also some dog robots that were attacking me as well, and they were very, very aggressive. So you have that in conjunction with this Vitalis robot that's healing them like probably every few seconds. If you don't take them out, it's going to take you longer to kill all these enemies and get through the entire combat zone, and your health is going to dwindle away. But be sure to take those out very fast, because I did not at first, and one of my runs before this run was like all the way dead in the water. But like I said before, I was getting pretty stacked on all of my mods, and so I made it to the boss in no time. This was actually the first time I fought the Zone 2 boss, and I felt kind of overpowered because this is just a spider boss, and he was standing under his debris, which again, I had the freezing mods on there that dropped freezing bombs anytime I destroyed a building or something that was destructible. So it was freezing, and I was just shooting in the face. His health was dwindling down, staggering. The boss literally had no chance. I had less of a hard time on this boss than I had with the previous boss, and it just shows the level of overpoweredness I was at even in this second zone. Finally, I made it to Zone 3, a zone I had not visited previously, so this is my first experience with Zone 3, but it also has an interesting weather effect. I don't know if this is going to be the case every time you go to Zone 3, but because this is my first time, everything is covered in snow. I probably think that it is because it made me slide, or it made me use my slide a lot more, so I'm pretty sure that everything is going to be freezing, or everything's going to be kind of a snowy environment, which is kind of unfortunate because I did have a lot of freezing based mods, so I'll kind of have to adjust those and move those around. But also what's interesting is that this zone introduces armored enemies. So armored enemies are essentially very strong opponents that can only be hurt by blunt force objects, explosives, or corrosive. They cannot be staggered, and they cannot be hit with critical attacks unless you crack their armor, and then you can start to stagger them. So there's a lot of armored enemies. You have armored enemies and in this frozen area. I had to readjust my entire kit. I had to be a little bit more mindful of what I was doing and how I was moving around. That's why the grapple points helped a lot. Also using more of my grenade, using more of the explosives around me with the gravity tether. I did wind up getting corrosive ammo, so I switched that out for the projectile ammo. I had to adjust that so much that I almost died on one of the sub bosses that I wouldn't have had trouble on in the previous zone. So yeah, this is real tough because you have the armored enemies and the health is getting a lot crazier. However, I did die on the combat zone right before the boss. I was looking on the map and I noticed I had one combat zone to go before I reached the boss, and lo and behold, I died because there was just so many armored enemies. You had shielded enemies holding up shields. You had Vitalis that was healing everybody. Everybody was frozen, and I just wasn't hitting everybody in the right way, and I wasn't getting everybody staggered in the right time, so I wasn't able to recoup some health and some ammo, and it just didn't go the way that I expected. But oh man, I had a blast, and it was the best run that I had so far. What's great also is that now that I've completed Zone 2, it unlocked another access point area, which I was able to unlock the marksman gun. So right now I have 4 guns, and I think that's all the guns that are available right now until the next update, which comes out in February, which I think the SMG is going to be available. But right now I have the pistol, the assault rifle, the shotgun, and the marksman, which I didn't say this earlier, but you can actually purchase skins with some of the currencies you get. What's interesting about the skins is that they all have different modifiers, which changes the way the weapon works. Like, for example, the pistol has an auto skin that permanently puts in an auto mode, auto fire mode, but also increases the damage, but also reduces the magazine size. There's also a triple burst assault rifle, a fully automatic shotgun, and so on and so forth, different weapon effects, different projectiles. So there's already extra modifiers thrown in on these weapons with the skins on the outset before you get any type of modifier. So I'll have to experiment a little bit with that, and also use the marksman gun to kind of vary up my playstyle, because I'm very run and gun in this game. I love the assault rifle. It feels great to shoot. Pistol's all right if I put it in auto mode. Kind of like pistol's all right. Shotgun, I'm still trying to figure out as well. Trying to figure out the best weapon combinations for it. Barely used the marksman so far, but so far assault rifle, that is my go-to weapon in its base model, and then just going forward with all the different modules. But voidbreaker is so much fun. I'm having a blast with it. Like I said before, I'm feeling like I'm getting in a flow state because I've been playing this game so much. I'm so glad that this is the only roguelike I'm playing for the entire month, because it's allowed me to really kind of dive in and kind of hone in on some of these systems and just feel how good the gameplay is, because the gameplay is really good. The gameplay, once you really get into it, once you really understand the movement and the gunplay of it, it is so satisfying, especially when you take out waves of enemies with staggering them from buildings, explosive, all the crazy weapon combinations. It is fantastic. So again, I hope you are playing Voidbreaker with me this month. I'm going to talk about it again until the end of January, and then talk about another roguelike for the next month. But for this month, I'm talking about Voidbreaker. So let me know in the comments if you're playing Voidbreaker, or if you have played it before, if you have some interesting builds, or how your runs are going in Voidbreaker so far. But if you want to see my previous video on it, feel free to check that out as well as any videos I got coming out on the channel. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Chike, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.